Hi everybody, it's Miss K. We're going to start today by going through the warm-up. So the first step for the warm-up today is you are supposed to write examples of each vocabulary word. So you might have done your own examples, that's okay. If you couldn't think of an example, I'm going to show you a few right now. For the distributive property, in order to use the distributive property, you need to have a number outside a set of parentheses. So this number, -2, is going to be distributed onto everything inside of the parentheses. To distribute, we're going to multiply -2 times both things in the parentheses. -2 times 5x is -10x. -2 times -8 is +16. So that's an example on the distributive property. Another property is when you combine like terms. This means you combine anything that's a number together, anything that has an x together, anything that has an x squared together, and so on. You're basically grouping things together. So if we look at an example, say we have 3x minus 5 equals, minus 7x equals 8 plus 2. We can combine like terms on both sides of the equation. On the left side, we can combine 3x with -7x. 3x minus 7x would give us -4x minus 5 equals, on the right side, we can combine 8 and +2 to give us +10. So that's what it means to combine like terms. Solving for x is any time you're given an equation and you're asked to figure out what x equals at the very end. So in our class, when we have an equation just with x, it might look something like this. And if it asks you to solve for x, that means that you're supposed to draw a line down the middle and figure out what x is to make this equation true. So first, we're going to add 12 to both sides. We get 2x plus 0 equals 32. So 2x equals 32. We can divide by 2 on both sides to get x equals 16. So solving for x is when you figure out what x is. We're also going to often ask you to check your answer. When we say check your answer, it means take your answer that you got and plug it back into your original equation for x and see if it's true. So this was our original equation, and I'm going to plug in 16 instead of x. Two times 16 is 32, minus 12 equals 20. 32 minus 12 is 20. 20 equals 20. That's a true statement, which means our answer is correct. The last thing is when we ask you to simplify something, we're asking you to distribute everything, combine any like terms that you have, or for a fraction, sometimes for a fraction it means divide by the biggest number that can go into both the numerator and the denominator, which in this case is 5. So this would simplify to 2/5. So again, these are just some important vocabulary words that you're going to use in today's activity. Make sure you write down these examples and have these in your notebook. Okay. The next thing we're going to do is you need to turn to a new page in your notebook and write down this topic and essential question. So pause the video here and write this down. The topic is technical writing, and our essential question is, how do I write like a scientist, mathematician, or engineer? I would add like lawyer to this list as well. I think a lot of times lawyers write with technical writing too. And we are going to be talking about what technical writing is. So again, pause the video here, write this down in your notebook, and when you're ready, press play. Okay. So what is technical writing and how is it different from other types of writing? Technical writing is when you write from a very objective view. It's a very objective writing style. Objective is when you write with only facts. You have no opinion in your writing. This is different from like creative writing where you might be writing about a personal experience. It's different from opinion writing where you're writing your perspective on something. Technical writing is basically just writing exactly what happened. An important piece of technical writing that's different from other types is you're never going to use words like, so don't use I, me, my, we, us, anything like that. You will have no perspective from your own point of view. So you can't use words like I, me, my, we, us. You're not allowed to use those words in technical writing. And the last thing is most of technical writing is in past tense. So using was, not is. I'm not really too strict about this part. I'll help you out as you're writing for this part, but make sure to not use I, me, my, we, us in your writing. And I'll help you as well figure out how to do that. But for now, just make sure you have this written down, and we're going to go through an example. We're going to skip this slide because we kind of did that in the very beginning. But we're going to go through an example. Why technical writing is important is it's often used in like lab reports, in formal reports that talk about what happened or an experiment. So it's good to just practice it if you go into a field that requires technical writing. So the first step for this is we're going to solve the problem. Then we're going to describe what we did using technical writing. So go ahead and pause the video here and write this down. Okay. Let's start then. We're going to solve this problem first. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do to solve this problem is we're going to distribute this -5 onto these parentheses. So the first step, I'm going to write a reminder to myself, was to distribute. So when we distributed, we have x still. Then we have -5 times x. -5 times x is -5x. -5 times +1 is -5 equals 3x plus 2. Next step is to combine like terms. On the left side, we have 2x terms, so before we do the next step, we're going to combine. Combine like terms. Okay. X minus 5x is -4x minus 5 equals 3x plus 2. Okay, our next step is we want to get the x's to be on the same side. I'm going to add 4x to both sides because -4x plus 4x will give us 0. So I'm going to write add 4x because -4x plus 4x is 0. They cancel each other out. So I'm going to add 4x to both sides. -4x plus 4x is 0 minus 5 equals 7x plus 2, or -5 equals 7x plus 2. Next, I want to move this +2 over here. To undo +2, I'm going to subtract 2. Subtract 2 since +2 minus 2 equals 0. So we're thinking about why we're doing each step so that when we write our paragraph, we can describe why we did what we did. So this will be -7 equals 7x plus 0, or -7 equals 7x. Our last step is to divide both sides by 7 because 7x divided by 7 equals 1x equals x. X equals -1. Okay, so our first step really was to just solve this problem. I'm going to shrink this down a little bit so we have some space. Move that over. There we go. Okay. Now we're going to describe what we did using technical writing. So we're basically just going to write and explain what we did without using I, me, you, we. So we're just going to be careful not to use that. But mostly we're just going to describe what we did. So let's start. I'm just going to start by telling the reader what the problem was. So the given problem was to solve this equation for x. And I'm going to write down what that equation was. I basically want the reader to not, if they didn't see that problem, to know what the problem was that we're solving. So now just by reading these words, they would know what problem we were solving. Okay? The first step that we did was to distribute this -5. So I'm going to say the first step to solve this problem was to distribute -5. Okay, now I'm going to show what that step looks like. So here we have our problem again. I'm going to take this -5 and distribute it. We'll get x minus 5x minus 5 equals 3x plus 2. Okay? The next step was to combine like terms. So I'm going to say the next step was to combine like terms. So I'm going to show that step. X minus 5x minus 5 equals 3x plus 2. We combined the x and -5x to get -4x minus 5 equals 3x plus 2. Next, we added 4x to both sides because -4x plus 4x equals 0. So I'm just going to say the third step was to add 4x to both sides because -4x plus 4x equals 0. It's important to explain why you take some of these steps. So here's our problem. I'm going to draw the line. Add 4x to both sides. We'll get 0 minus 5 equals 7x plus 2, or -5 equals 7x plus 2. Okay, we got 2 more steps. So I'm going to say after that, -2, or I'm going to say 2 was subtracted from both sides because +2 minus 2 equals 0. So here's our problem. Draw the line. Let me see what color we used. Green. Minus 2, minus 2. Negative 7 equals 7x plus 0, or negative 7 equals 7x. Now we're down to our last step, which was to divide by 7. So I'm going to say the last step was to divide both sides by 7 because seven x divided by 7 equals 1x, which equals x. So we have negative 7 equals 7x. We're going to divide both sides by 7. We'll get negative 1 equals 1x, or x equals negative 1. All right, I need to make this a little smaller so we can keep writing. I don't know if I can. Here we go. Okay, so the solution to the equation x minus 5 x plus 1 equals 3x plus 2. Right, that was the original one, yep. Is x equals negative 1. So we're showing all of our steps to solve the problem and then stating what the solution is at the very end. It's also really important to make sure you check your work, so we're going to explain how we check our answer. To check this answer, x equals negative 1 was plugged back into the original equation. So I'm going to show that work here. We have our original equation. We're going to plug in negative 1 instead of x. So everywhere we had an x, we plugged in negative 1 instead. So we have negative 1 minus 5. Negative 1 plus 1 is 0. 3 times negative 1 is negative 3 plus 2. Negative 5 times 0 is just 0 equals negative 3 plus 2 is negative 1. Negative 1 plus 0 is negative 1. Negative 1 equals negative 1. Since negative 1 equals negative 1 is a true equation, our solution, x equals -1, is correct. Okay. So we wrote out, it kind of filled up a page, but only because we showed each step as we explained what we were doing. Okay? So if you go back to Schoology now, you are going to be trying out your own problem. You can read the example on Schoology to check your work. And then you're going to try 2 more problems on your own and explain the steps that you took to solve the problem. Okay, hope you guys have a wonderful day, and remember, if you need help, come to my office hours in the morning from 9:15 until 10. The code to join is my last name, Kasahara. I'll write it here. Kasahara. Thanks, bye.